The voice of the drum calls. It sings a song of those who came before us and those to come. A song of survival and strength. A song of participation and voice. A song that calls us together. When we come together and participate in the 2010 census, we use this tool as the voice of all our Native people. Our voice. It is in our hands. 2010 census.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Acosta. Welcome to the Native News Update on Friday, April 16th. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. School districts with Native American mascots and nicknames could have to change them under a plan that passed the Wisconsin State Senate April 13th. The legislation would let any resident of a school district complain about what they see as a race-based nickname. And if the State Department of Public Instruction agrees that the mascot or nickname is racist, schools could face fines of up to $1,000 a day if they don't get rid of it. Milwaukee Senate Democrat Spencer Coggs told his colleagues that it might be hard for them to walk in the shoes of Native Americans. But he reminded lawmakers that the state's tribes have pushed for legislation like this for a long time. And in passing the bill, they're telling Native American students that they are worthy and that their culture is respected. Coggs said that this is not an all-out ban on tribal nicknames, but if a complaint is filed and all it would take is one person to file it, it would be up to the school district to show that they're not being racist. A similar proposal already passed the Assembly, but both chambers need to agree to the exact same bill before it can go to the governor. As the trial for Dick Marshall, who is accused of aiding and abetting in the murder of Native American activist Anna Mae Aquash back in 1975, continues, we go to Paul Demain for the latest update. Hey Paul, you want to give us an update on the Richard Marshall trial?
Thanks, Kim. Since my report yesterday, I've been in the courtroom there to hear one witness so far that was called when I first got there yesterday afternoon. That's Arlo Looking Cloud, who was convicted in the year 2004 of aiding and abetting the murder of Anna Mae Aquash, one of the three principal people who acted to take her from Denver, Colorado to Rapid City and then out to the Pine Ridge Reservation where she was shot. Arlo has testified about that entire trip from Denver, Colorado, where he says that Anna Mae Aquash was tied up at the home of Thelma of Troylyn Yellowwood by Theda Nelson Clark in Denver, transported to Rapid City, North Dakota now, or Rapid City, South Dakota. This is where he basically says that he spent most of the next day sleeping while Anna Mae was kept in a house, and that John Graham was in the room with her, guarding her. That he only left once or twice, but that he slept most of the day. And this may have been during the time period when Anna Mae was taken to the Wickledock office and interrogated. He said he didn't have anything to do with that. But he did testify that they went from there to Bill Means's house on the Rosebud Reservation that night. And they stopped there, that John Graham and Theda Nelson Clark got out, went into Bill Means's house, and when they came out, that he needed to use the restroom, and he went in. And when he went in and they knocked on the door before they went in, Charlie Abarask answered the door. Now, Charlie Abarask is an attorney here in Rapid City, South Dakota, that originally represented Dick Marshall. So it's kind of an interesting twist to this scenario. He said that after they left Bill Means's house, they then went to Allen, where they stopped at Dick Marshall and Cleo Gates' house, and that's where they received a gun and a box of shells, while Dick Marshall, Theda Nelson Clark, Arlo, and John Graham were all in the back bedroom. And that they then took that gun and the shells, and they left with Anna Mae in the same red Pinto owned by Theda Nelson Clark, and went up to Wombly. That they stopped at two houses there. Nobody answered the doors at either one of those houses, and that they eventually found themselves over at Richard Amiott's on the north end of the Pine Ridge Reservation and that Theda had drove back and forth before finally pulling in and walking her over to a nearby bluff where Theda Nelson Clark and John Graham got Anime out of the car and started walking her toward the bluff, and that Arlo then got out and followed them from a distance. That he remembers hearing Anime praying in her Mi'kmaq language when John Graham shot her in the back of the head and she fell over the ledge. And then they left. So that's his testimony. He said that they put the gun on the way back to Allen into a pillowcase and stopped at some bridge and buried it there. And that's the last he remembers about the gun. Now, Dick Marshall's attorney, Dana Hanna, has spent the last hour of yesterday's hearing on Wednesday and this morning trying to punch a hole in Arlo Looking Cloud's testimony. And so he's brought up every single thing that he has ever said to compare it and asked him if he lied. And Arlo has admitted that he had lied to law enforcement authorities, but he's sticking to the main story, and the main story is consistent with not only some of the letters that he wrote to me in News from Indian Country, but some of the other testimony over the years. So that's a capsulization of what's gone on so far today.
Who are we expected to see be on trial today?
Well, I think they're going to spend a good part of the afternoon with Arlo Looking Cloud reviewing again his testimony. They're trying to break him down because he's the main guy that said Dick Marshall took the gun out of that nightstand at his home and gave it to Theda Nelson Clark. And so I think we've got a couple hours of work on him yet. Now, standing on the witness list, according to my sources, is attorney Barry Backrack, an attorney that used to represent Leonard Peltier one time and is now representing Arlo Looking Cloud. And Kamuk Nichols, or Kamuk Ekafi, is on a short list as well, has been notified to stand by for her testimony. We have a couple technical things, Dr. Gary Peterson, Bob Ekafi, and other investigators that are still in line. So I'm not sure how far they're going to get. We're expecting to hear from prosecution witness Cyril Chapman on Monday, which is going to be another key witness in it because he recorded at least one lengthy interview with Dick Marshall. So we'll be watching all this stuff and see where it goes, Kim.
When does Theda Nelson go on the stand?
We don't know for sure. She was originally going to be called as a defense witness, went to a competency hearing in which the judge ruled she was competent to be a witness, and we're hearing rumors that she may be called by the prosecution at this point, but she was not called by the defense in the original list. It could be that she will still make that list. It'll be interesting to see if that happens. So I think next week we've got probably a full week of testimony here to go through unless something changes it drastically. But right now, it was going very fast for a while. Now it's on the key witnesses against Dick Marshall, and his attorney's going to spend some time on these people.
Is there any AIM people there that are there supporting Dick Marshall?
Well, there's people on both sides of the line. I mean, you want to remember that Arlo Looking Cloud is a Lakota as well, and his family and friends are here. Dick Marshall, family and friends are here. People from law enforcement, people who are interested in this. There's all forms and factions. What's absent this time compared to Arlo Looking Cloud's trial is, Charlie Abarask isn't here. Bill Means is not here. Vernon Bellecourt's passed away now. Clyde Bellecourt isn't here. Russell Means is not in here. Ted Means is not in here. And so it's interesting that what's absent is the leadership people. And there's a difference between those leadership people being accused in this conspiracy and what's considered to be the general membership. But frankly speaking, there's some AIM people there. But again, AIM was a legacy a long time ago, and a lot of people still belong to it. But their alliances vary between different factions here. They're a mix and match of everything.
How's everything going with Annie Mae's family being there?
Well, Denise is here from Nova Scotia this time. She expects a lot more family members to be down from Nova Scotia during July 6th for Thelma Rios's and John Boy Patton Graham's trial. She's here and she's doing very well. I think that she's looking at Arlo to try to judge his ability to get through this cross-examination and as a trustworthy individual. and she's doing fine. I think there's been progress made. Part of it is that more of this story gets put into the public record. Whether there's an acquittal or conviction of Dick Marshall, I don't believe it's necessarily going to hurt the prosecution of John Graham. And from my point of view, it simply puts a lot of information that's been written by News from Indian Country and said and done over the years on the public record. And that's going to be harder to contest by those people who said this is all some kind of big FBI fabrication to embarrass the American Indian movement.
Well, thank you.
It's not.
Thanks for the update, and we'll see you next week.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and have a grand day.